This particular time, Minister said he's coming out, and he will be staying with Jim Brown at Jim Brown's house up in Beverly Hills. Or I should say Hollywood Hills. So Jim Brown has been a very, very, very close supporter of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In fact, Jim Brown was one of the first major entertainers when they started the support for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, standing up for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They said Friends of Muhammad. In Chicago, they had a major event there to introduce that. Jim Brown was one of the ones who came to Chicago as one of the ones who stand up as one of the first friends of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When we started the Friends of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So he and I both flew out to Chicago on that day to celebrate the introduction to the Friends of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So while we were there, Minister Farrakhan said that, or before that happened, Mr. Farrakhan said that he and I both were not working. He wasn't working because all he knew to do when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was to be the minister for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's the only work he ever did since he'd been a minister with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was working, but I didn't have to work at that particular time. So he and I both were free, but we couldn't teach at that particular time the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because it was forbidden to teach the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad left. They banned all the books, tapes, all the things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did. We weren't permitted or allowed to teach that teaching. And so most of the believers had those kind of teachings. They gave it away or threw it away or whatever they did. And so the minister was telling me that, what are we going to do now that we can't teach teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? But we still got to make a living. He had moved to Chicago under the guidance of, under the instructions of Wahid Muhammad. He was staying at 9515 South Damon Avenue in what was called the Beverly Hills section of Chicago. So he drove from Chicago to California. And when he got there, he stayed at Jim Brown's house, and he came to get some directions on where he's going to go now that he was no longer teaching teachings of Master Fard Muhammad nor Wahid Muhammad. Where would he go from here? So I think he said that someone had asked him that question, and he told him that he was not going to be teaching, that what he was going to do. I think the minister told him he was going back, and what he knew how to do was be an entertainer. So that was Allah's protection, because he was no longer a threat, being an entertainer. Anything else he was going to teach may be considered to be a threat to the establishment of that time, because everybody expected Minister Farrakhan to step into that position. But Allah was in complete control of everything that Minister Farrakhan has done. Was, I know, from my understanding, since I knew him, Allah has guided him through every course, problems and adversities and things that are going down. Allah has guided him so successfully to be overcome all the obstacles, barriers, and resistance that confronted him. And when he said he was going into entertainment, then he was no threat to anyone because there were many entertainers. So he came out to do that. He brought his violin, played, stayed at Jim Brown. Jim Brown had two homes, one house and one place where Mr. could have his own privacy, do what he wanted to do. But then he was at this particular time, he was at this hotel, the Continental Hyatt Hotel, and he had decided that what he would like to do was do the history of Malcolm X, make a movie of Malcolm X, with him playing the part of Malcolm X. So like he said, he knew Malcolm X better than anybody else did, so he was the most likely one to play the role, play it properly, give it proper respect. So we started, he introduced the concept to lots of the entertainers that we were seeing at that time. And at that particular time, these entertainers most of those entertainers were at the peak of their career in performing what they were doing in entertainment. Mainly people like Brock Peters, Ronnie Elder, Julianne Elder, Jane Kennedy, Leon Isaac, and Jim, Richard Pryor. Well, just about all of them. He knew all of them. Mr. Parker knew all of them. And but he had mentioned it to the brother who made Superfly, Ron O'Neill, his wife Carol. We had met with him, and he had told them what he would like to do. And they did not really agree with him, but they had the highest amount of respect for him. And I think one of them, or some of them, had told him that they disagreed with him becoming an entertainer. And I think one of the reasons why they said they were disagreeing with him because they had him on such a high pedestal. He was like their guru for them, a spiritual guidance for them. And for him to say that he was going to become an entertainer, they felt that he was coming down because they were trying to get up to where he was. So they said that they would support it, but they're not necessarily in agreement with it. Some of them actually told him, others may have felt that way, but didn't necessarily tell him. So we were meeting at the hotel, and we had made an arrangement with the management in the restaurant that they could use a certain portion in the back of the hotel, the back of the restaurant in the hotel, to have meetings, and he could interview certain potential characters to be a part of the movie Malcolm X. And some of the people that came down at that particular time to talk to Minister Farrakhan about that and other things they discussed, like Smokey Robinson, Jane Kennedy, Leon Isaac. I mean, there's a host of Carol O'Neill. I mean, there's a host of all of Lola Falana. I mean, I can't remember, like, I got a good memory, but it's short, I would put it that way. So, but if you go back to that particular time period, just about all the entertainers had started during that time, we had contact with most of them, and they were